Hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip,
And I'm CJ.
and it is Friday in the Rib, and a cold Friday it is. Cold and windy.
And it's going to be cold and snowy on Sunday during the
Well,
Patriots game.
well, that's good. You got that. It makes the weather. It makes the New England weather gives them a little advantage. So
That's it. That's
it
it.
should give them a little advantage. Those they're playing a very, very, very strong defensive team, and it's a little hard with the footing and stuff. So we'll see what happens. I guess everybody will locked in to see what happens, and they totally dominated. They totally dominated the Steelers at defense. I've never seen anything like it. But of course, also May is a lot more mobile. He's younger, and we'll see what happens. It should be a great game. Let's see what happens.
It should make for an interesting game.
Yeah, it should. So let's get to it. Hey, Gene. Yeah, I guess we can start with going back to the council. I received the call, and I did. You know, I'd asked them if I could, yeah, if I could mention it. I would have kept it, in general private. I received a call from Counselor uh, Christopher Peckham. Hey, Jim. Um, he wanted to tell me about his why he voted, in the affirmative. He said because he had spoken to um, Kadeem earlier, and um, he felt that at least they put a cap on it. Um, and he said,
Not much of a cap.
well, that's the problem. I mean, I told him, I expressed him, and I appreciate him calling, and I understand what he's saying. And I told him that. I said, better. Yeah, I know what you think. Thought better to have some cap than no cap, but it's really not. What it shows more about him, and I mean, obviously, he was trying to get at least something. I would have preferred just the no vote because the cap's absurd. I have to read how it's structured because I'm not sure if I got it correctly. Hey, James. Yeah, the mileage bill. We'll talk about that. But talking about rape in the city, but Kadeem's great answer. Yeah, we'll put a cap with 70% of supposedly what we bonded, which is $500 million supposedly. So let me just so everybody can kind of put this in perspective. What he thinks is a cap. Remember, it used to be 5 million, 20 million per year. 70% of what supposedly, and I got to make sure. I'm not going to say this is exact. This is just what we discussed, and I have to see exactly the way things are written. I have to look at the way the ordinance is drafted and what it stipulates. But what he was proposing, from what I got, at 70%, it gives them. We get to vote if they spend more than $350 million.
Correct.
That's what I just said.
Yeah.
$350 million in one year, because that's what the budget covers. 350 million bucks, everybody. We used to have it 20. So let me give you a few. I like numbers. That is 17.5 times larger than the 20 million. Okay, 17.5 times more than they get to spend now. If the average median income, a person with the average median income in the city of Fall River, which by the United States Census Bureau, and I'm rounding up, I'm going to give them 32,000 a year. It's 31,993. So I'll give them the $7. We'll make it $32,000. If you gave them their entire annual gross income, it would take you 11,000 years, actually a little bit more than 11,000 years, to spend that much money if you spent every single cent. And if they do spend that in a calendar in a fiscal year, it will bring our budget to nearly $1 billion. Nearly 1 billion. 350,000 added to the 500 and change that we've got now is nearly 900,000. So we'd be up near a billion. These are the people who haven't controlled spending. For the 6 years that Coogan's been in, our budget is nearly doubled. And Kadeem has the temerity, the audacity to be cavalier about this with his attitude. Oh, what do they want? A town meeting every time we spend? Yeah, we do. Because that's what the Constitution says. You're supposed to be answerable to us. And don't give me that cavalier bullshit. Because the reality is that's a lot of money. We didn't say every time you spend $5,000, every time you spend any money, we have to have a town meeting. We're talking about a large amount. 20 million is a lot of money to a city where we have one of the lowest incomes in the state of Massachusetts per capita and household. It's a lot of money, Sean. Sean Kadeem is not acting as a city councilor. Sean Kadeem is being a de facto city administrator for the city of Fall River. He used to be the city administrator. Apparently, he's still the assistant city administrator because he's in that chair figuring out how they can get more money to spend, but not in the best interest of the people of Fall River. What the fuck have they done in the last 6 years to help us when the budget doubled? Are our streets better? Is the crime better? Is the educational system better? Is anything better for the average person in Fall River? No. It's better for the rich people. Sean Kadeem is not a city councilor. He's a city administrator. He's working for the city, not for the people of Fall River. And I am pissed. Okay? So let's put it out there. I'm sorry, Chris. I would have voted no. I understand what you're coming from. And I don't, I know you're going to try to fight for the people, but to me, you just gotta go on record as saying no. If you don't prioritize the city, the people of Fall River, let them go on record as clearly. And kudos to Councilor Canuel for mentioning the taxpayers and voting no. And I think both you and Michelle Dion should have voted no. And I know you had a conversation with Michelle.
I had a conversation with Michelle.
I do not care what kind of excuse they made. I would have rather seen them go down. I would have rather seen them go down 6-3 and put the other 6 clowns on record
on the spot
as bending us over and giving it to us.
Right. And, the thing is that I had a conversation with Michelle because immediately after repealing the voter initiative to put those limits in place, Sean Kadeem put a resolution in to limit the amount of bonding to 70% of the bond, not what we've currently bonded, of the bondable amount that the state allows them to bond maximum.
Which is 500 million.
Which is millions. And then I talked to Michelle and she said, well, we gotta have a limit of some time. I said, well, I agree with Canuel's. That makes sense. But the money's not, I said, you'd have to just keep changing it. I said, I could agree to a percentage of the maximum bonding amount, but I'm not going to agree to 70%. I said 50, 40, maybe, but even 50% is $175 million.
Yeah. I mean, it's actually, if it's the amount bonding, the amount we can bond is $500,000. It's actually 250 million.
Right.
250 million. I'm good with numbers. It's like 250 million. We had 20 million.
Right.
And they had to dance around that. You realize, knowing that they can spend that much without even bringing it up, how much they're going to blow, and on what? On more tiffs, on buying more bullshit that doesn't help us, going to buy land somewhere or doing something else that's got nothing to do with improving the lives of the city of Fall River. Let's spend another $7 million on lights. Let's get better lights. Screw you, Paul. You only spent $7 million on lights and benches that we were going to get for free. We got a blank check now. Let's put freaking $200 million lights on Duval corridor so Tony Cadero can have a really nice show down there near his apartments. Let's pave every street that every developer builds a building on, like you do now. Not my street, not Eastern Avenue, not any street in the city that is traveled by the average Fall Riverite. Let's just piss it in a hole like you have been. You haven't earned the right to have the public trust.
You mean like all these private developments that are now having their streets accepted by the city so that they get free snow plowing?
Yes.
And free trash pickup? You mean like those streets?
Yes, exactly. Those are
and they do it every city council meeting. Piss away your money.
See, these are the kind of side things that they don't understand happens. See, these are little side benefits that they don't realize are going to happen. This is, like I said, this is absolutely outrageous. And they just gave us the finger. And fundamentally, I don't know what we can do about it. And I don't. Let's see what they do in this 2 years. Coogan's going to spend as much money as he can because he's out of here. And all these people are going to they're going to pig pile everything. And like you said, there are a lot of indirect services that they get now because, okay, now they're getting all their streets adopted. They get their streets plowed.
Right.
So they don't have to pay. So they got a TIF. We're paying part of their taxes, or most of their taxes. They get their streets plowed for free now. They don't have to put a penny out, and we're going to give them more pennies. And what happens to us? Our taxes get increased. Our property values go up. Their property values go up, but they don't pay anything on it.
That's right.
That's the problem.
And we
like
pick
I
up
said,
the trash.
This was the most outrageous. You know, this is the most outrageous betrayal of the voters I have ever seen in all my years in this business. And I've been in this business a very, very long time. Oh, yeah, she's an absolute imbecile. No, the appropriate degree for a to work in a city is any degree but the one you need. Yeah, his opinions. Yeah, they're opinions. They're not law. It's a legal opinion. Yeah, everything's an emergency to Kenny because they don't do anything to maintain buildings. Then when a building falls apart, Kenny declares it an emergency and gives his friends the contracts.
That's right. And then he hires them.
That's what they do. And then he gets a job when they retire.
Without a bid.
I'm glad you brought up Emily, James. I got a call from one of our viewers telling me about, I guess, that we suck, but we have to rename it now that we
suck even more at
radio. That they're talking about healthcare again in the school department. And Kevin Aguiar, and I texted Colin today to call me, so he didn't get back to me, so I'll just discuss it now. Kevin Aguiar started again about the school budget, and Emily weighed in. Emily told them that they have been overfunding or underfunding the healthcare item in the school committee. Well, let me explain something to Emily and her degree in political science and that other imbecile that's in charge of the finances in the school department. And has
Almeida?
Been. What's that?
Almeida?
Yeah, that nitwit that I explained this 150 times. Listen, that number is only because they have to make up a budget. And it is not a number that can be underfunded and overfunded. It's a simple, easy thing. Only when you want to manipulate the number to hide money or steal money can that number be manipulated? Because let me explain something to Emily and to Almeida again for the 5 millionth time. We have group insurance. The school department does not have its own insurance. They're part of the group. When we have a public employee committee meeting, the president of the Teachers Association is sitting in a room with me. The president of the Administrators Association is sitting in a room with me. The president of the unions that are in the school department that are non-teaching personnel are in the room with me. We have group insurance, and we've only run over budget once, and that was last year. They're $2 million short because they blew the money because we've been under budget for 40 years. You can't overinflate that number. It's given to you by Gallagher. Gallagher says, this is how much the funding you're going to need to pay for the health care. And you know what you do? You take that number. They give you the number. They do all the actual projections. We have a meeting. They say, this is the percentage that we're adding for inflation. These are the actuarial projections. This is the number we recommend. And we all discuss it. And we can add to it, subtract to it, do whatever we want because we're the committee. Normally we go with Gallagher because Gallagher does a great job. And then they come up with a number. So let's make it easy for these pinheads. Let's say the number is, I'll make it round so they can understand it because, political science, I don't think math's a major part of a political science degree. And I don't know what degree the other idiot's got because he just can't understand it. Or he's intentionally pretending he doesn't understand it. Okay, let's say they're going to say that the cost of health care this year for health care in this city will be $40 million. That's what Gallagher's projected. You have to budget $40 million. The employees have to pay 25% of that $40 million. And you have to pay 70%. The city has to pay, and the school department has to pay, put it in a budget, 75%. So what that means is you take $10 million for the employee, that's 25% of 40, $10 million, and you then figure out how much each individual person, depending on family plan or individual plan, is going to have to pay monthly, which we do, taken out of our checks. And the city pays $30 million. Period. The number can't be underfunded or overfunded unless you're manipulating the number. And that only shows one of two things. Either you're freaking trying to steal money, pad it with money like Mary Sahadi did the time she walked in with a $45 million number. Remember that one, CJ?
I do.
And I
remember
texted the council and said, no, it's $40 million. She's adding $5 million. She's trying to hide $5 million. And they questioned her, and then they called Gallagher up, and they asked the representative from Gallagher, how much money is it going to cost for the premium item? She said $40 million. And then Mary Sahadi said, oh, well, I added this and I added that. No, you can't add that. That's not what it's for. It's for other ancillary things. And that thing is a six-figure too. So again, the clown show strikes again. And they're not even smart enough not to discuss this in front of a camera. They actually talk about it and think nobody can understand it. The only people that can understand it is them. They're freaking morons. And as you said about secret meetings on a state level, they should do this in secret. Whisper. Oh, let's see if we can add money. At least Mary Sahadi didn't just tell everybody she added it. She just walked to the council and lied. Oh, we're going to need $45 million in the budget for healthcare. Take my word for it. Then went, you sure? Oh, yeah, 45. You sure? Get Gallagher up. How much you need? $40 million. Oh, whoops. Well, actually, we don't really need 45 million. It's 40 million. But you know something? We'll only put 39 million because we wanted to hide 6 million in the budget to spend somebody else. And we were under budget that year with even $1 million less than we were going to budget. So this whole thing smacks of the clown show that we have in this city. Yeah, and we had no idea there was asbestos in the basement. That's right, James. I mean, this it's a clown show. When they go up there, it's like a comedy show. They had that old program Cheers. Everybody knew your name. Well, they should have a new show called Fall River Public Officials. Everybody knows they're stupid because this is what should happen. And as Gene said earlier in the show, the irony is there are people you can talk to that actually know, but they don't. They ignore you. You send them that CJ sent them stuff. I've sent them it. Gene knows more than anybody I know about drug addiction programs and stuff like that. He's been involved in that stuff for years, and he's a wealth of information on that subject. You think anybody asks him? No. They'll just do whatever the hell they want. Like I said, it's a freaking clown show. And we got to put up with these clowns for another 20 years. But it's the attitude they have now. They're getting like the rest, like the state. You remember forensic audit used to make their hair burst into flame? They're getting so corrupt. They don't even want a regular audit. Now, if you say regular audit, they go crazy. They don't want it. The state doesn't even want let alone a forensic, a regular audit. This is how corrupt this city has become. We got over a $500,000 budget, $500 million budget. I'm sorry. What's going to happen now with a blank check? These people have not earned the right to have our trust in them because they are totally fiduciarily irresponsible, and they got an attitude like, oh, screw you. You elected me. I make all the decisions. No, that's not the way it works. We elected you to be our representatives and our fiduciaries, not to be assholes. But then what happens? Then the media covers everything up like media always does. And now that we suck more than ever at radio is owned by a politician. Oh my God. The other guy was just a pseudo de facto politician indirectly. Now it's owned by somebody who's fundamentally a politician. So let's see how fair and biased they're going to be. Yeah, you're right, Gene. Like I said, the clown show is coming to town. It's crazy, and they don't have even the one iota of common sense. And you can't trust the mainstream media. You can't trust media because all they do is lie. Just look at what they're doing, how they portray everything, because they want to get their political agenda. No, that's CJ's bailiwick. He loves diving into that stuff.
The annual report is not due until the 20th. That's Tuesday. So when the report is due on Tuesday, number one, we'll see if it's filed on time. And number two, we'll see if everything's included in it. And it's not just, and I want to make it clear to people. I don't just do this for Gabriel Amaral. I do this for every one of the scumbags that we call politicians at Fall River. I look at all their campaign contributions, if for no other reason but to know who they're in bed with. You want to know who's going to get a TIF? Look at the campaign finance report. You want to know who's going to get a good deal on a city building? Look at the campaign finance report. You want to see who's going to get a variance so they can make their property able to be converted into market rate housing, violating the Historic Commission and the historic status? Look at the campaign finance reports. You'll see it all. The dirt is there. You just need to read it.
Boomer just said, "Feel free," and I know you will.
I know that.
Loves that stuff.
And Dave, I do it for everybody. Not just you. I do it for everybody. When the 20th rolls around, I will look to see who filed the report, who filed it on time, who didn't file it on time. I'll look at the audit trails. That's what I do.
And what did we say 17 years ago when we started the show?
Follow the money.
Follow the money.
That's right.
That's what we've been doing since our show. We said two things. Do your own research. Don't take our word about anything. Do our research. Do the research on what we say. We will put proof on anything we assert as being accurate. And secondly, always follow the money. We've been doing that forever. And as CJ said, follow the money. You'll see what happens to everybody because you'll never see anything, and you'll never see a deep dive done by anybody in the mainstream media. And in the mainstream media, just look at what they're doing on a national level. You had an ICE agent that was chasing a Venezuelan gang member. The guy uh, uh, ran away, got in a car, crashed the car, jumped out of the car. He went on a foot chase with him. He got down. He must have been near where he lives or his neighborhood, where all the rest of the gang members were. Then two or three other people came out of the building, and one grabbed a shovel, one grabbed a broom or a stick or something, and they began to beat the federal agent with a shovel and a stick, and it was 3 or 4 to 1. And he shot one in the leg, and for self-defense. And you know what the headline was by the mainstream media? Not Venezuelan gang members attempt to freaking murder and bludgeon a ICE agent, and he fired in self-defense, because they love to propagandize everything, and they're part of the problem, like the Democratic politicians. The headline was, there were two headlines. One, Minnesota man shot by ICE. He wasn't an illegal gang member that had just tried to evade capture that they had a specific warrant out for. A Minnesota man was shot by ICE. And the other one just said, man shot by ICE. Not gang member, not somebody who had the warrant out, not that was a criminal, but this is what you get. And Boom was posted that, and I agree with you, CJ. That's one of the reasons I've never run, besides the fact that I can't tell somebody I like them just to get their vote. But I mean, that's just me. I'm not wired that way. No, that's why I don't normally deal in accounts. I don't care what anybody says about anybody, frankly. I listen to their platform. Everybody has a different look, but it's a free country, Gabe. I mean, everybody can do what they want. I said on my show, I will judge people by what they do in the city council. People were talking about Canuel positively and negatively. And I said, I don't care. I had a conversation with them. I had a conversation with you. I was positively impacted by both of those conversations. And I said, okay, so you earned my vote, you get my vote, but that is a vote for what you said, and we'll see what happens. So far, Canduel stood up, and I trusted. If you would have got in, we would have been exactly the same way. I mean, I'll say it. I voted for Coogan the first time he ran, because he was running against Jazel. I mean, I couldn't in good conscience vote for a guy that was going to probably go to jail and leave the city in a lurch. We needed a transitional, and of course, I also realized that all those promises he made that were probably bullshit, because I knew that he was a politician, but we needed to make a change. I haven't voted for him since. I won't. I voted for Eddie Lambert the first time he ran for mayor. Why? Because he had a 100% voting record for the firefighters union when I was the president of firefighters union as a state representative. He advocated for firefighter issues in Boston. Never had a problem with them. But when he came to the city, He did the exact opposite, and we ended up picketing his house, picketing his office, picketing everything. And we actually didn't picket his house. I wouldn't. I refused to do that with his family in it. But I marched 175 firefighters through the mayor's office when they were up there and stuff, and for other mayors too. I mean, we picketed. We did what we had to do. But there are people, but that's politics, Boomer. I mean, politics is if they got nothing on you, they're going to attack. They're going to attack your character, and that's always to me a something I look at as being almost a positive. If they're attacking your character rather than your platform, well, that says, well, maybe they're uncomfortable with what you're going to do, and that always is. But everybody's different. This is America. But what we can't do is do what they were allowing in Minnesota, to have our politicians encourage people to murder people. You can't have people spray painting on a car. The only good ICE agent is a dead ICE agent, and say they're not. They are peaceful protesters.
That's what we say all the time, James.
Yeah, no, you're right, James. But like I said, when less than 12,000 people show up, I can guarantee you right now there are enough people sitting at home right now that are kicking themselves in the ass, and Boomer would have got in, because they're saying, if I would have known it was going to be that close,
I would have voted.
I would have voted. That is not that's an excuse. It's a rationalization. I don't give a shit if I'm the only person that votes against somebody. I would have went to an election that Coogan was running in, that the rest of the people that were registered to vote in that election were all related to Coogan. I would have been the one no vote, voting right somebody in. This is the problem we have with the electorate. They need to be in critical mass before they get their ass off the couch.
I'll remind you of an election not that long ago. Kevin Aguirre, Alan Sylvia.
Oh.
What was the difference in the votes? How many?
It was single digits.
Initially, it was 10. Remember, initially it was 10?
Yeah. Yeah.
How do you think the people in the South End felt that didn't vote? If I would have known, I should have voted. Well, coulda, shoulda, woulda.
Yeah. There's nothing more. You're not the only one, Boomer. If you're ever in that position, when you talk about that position, ask David Steinoff. Of course, David Steinoff is state rep's position. Carol Fiola lost Fall River to David Steinoff, who was going through a very messy divorce at the time. And I'll look, I'm always forthcoming. I don't hide anything. Dave Steinoff's a good friend of mine. He's not only my dentist, he's a close personal friend of mine. David Steinoff lost that election because he didn't campaign out in the burbs.
That's right.
He didn't campaign in the Sonnet. He won Fall River. He actually beat Carol Fiola in Fall River. But he lost that election, and it was a very narrow decision, and they just eviscerated him in the press. And about his divorce, they accused him of beating his wife, starving his dog, you name it. I mean, everything known to man. And that kind of, to me, that kind of politics is always reprehensible. You have to understand it exists, and that's what they do. But educated voters realize you got to look by that and look at what the person stands for. I knew David. I knew those things were all bullshit. But in a political arena, the strategy is throw the giant shit ball at the wall. And if 90% of it sticks, even if it's untrue, by the time people figure out it wasn't true, the election's over. That's the way it goes. Yeah. I mean, this is why people have got to do what we said, 17 years ago. We started this show And I didn't have hair even then. So if anyone else says, do you have hair when you started? No, I didn't. I've been shaving my head for a very long time. But that was an aside. But we told you to follow the money and to do your homework. Don't believe. Just we will give you the direction if you don't think we're right, or if you think we're right, confirm it. We'll prove what we know is true. We'll be accurate as much as we can, and if it's our opinion, we'll tell you that. But we told you to follow the money because, as CJ said, when you look at that campaign finance report, there's a lot to be seen if you know how to look at the report. All of a sudden, you see some guy getting some waiver on something, and you go, "Oh, wait a minute! Oh, you remember the time we had Primacare? That every single employee in Primacare gave the mayor a $500 contribution."
Yes, I do, including the janitor.
I don't know if you knew about this, Boomer, but every single employee, those people didn't give. It was Primacare. You think the janitor who lives in Dighton or something like that is giving a mayoral candidate $500? You think somebody that's a receptionist is going to give them five? That's a lot of money. A receptionist? No, not only the doctors, most of whom live out of town, but every single employee at Primacare gave the candidate $500. That's a lot of employees in Primacare. Why?
I know. When janitors are giving $500 contributions.
Yeah, the janitors gave him $500. You know, they don't have to explain to me why. I knew that before we saw that, because I remembered when the Longs were trying to get Primacare to be the only healthcare carrier for the city of Fall River.
Yep.
That's why Primacare's been greasing the palms of politicians for years. And John Long and Steve Long are in a room screaming about me shitting all over their plan. Because at the time it was an IAC, not a PEC, and they came in and they floated that idea, and I said, not in this lifetime, pal. And they were all upset and screaming about me, so I called the guy they were meeting with, who was a very well-known developer, and I said, the next time you want to say something about me, and you're in a room with those two clowns, invite me in. I'd like to see it. I'd like to see you say that with me in the room. So, but I never did get that call. But I did they were very upset because they said I was threatening them. Oh, yeah, that's true, too. Yeah, he was a doctor there. But they were trying to get that. They actually floated the idea. It was a very, very long time ago. But they actually floated the idea. John Long came into a IAC meeting and proposed that we hire them as an exclusive provider, an EPO. A lot of people know what HMOs are and PPOs, but a lot of people don't know what an EPO is. It's an exclusive provider network. He recommended that we did that, and I said, what are you, nuts? And he went, oh, yeah, you guys are out of money. And I said, you're lying. We're not out of money. We got like $10 million. Oh, no, you only got... And then we found out that I asked Mary Ann Kosick, who at the time, we didn't have Emily. We had somebody that was looking at the funds that was actually an employee and told the truth. And she said, oh, no, we got all kinds of money. We just haven't made the deposits and moved the money around. But when we look at because we had like 25 different accounts with money in them, they spread them all over the place so they could like do that stuff. She said, oh, no, we got $10 million, and I threw him out of the room. Then he walked back in with the mayor 5 minutes later, and it was Mitchell. John Mitchell said, you can't throw him out. I said, I just did. So he went, well, I sent them in. I said, this isn't your meeting. This is an insurance advisory committee meeting, and I'm the chair. Well, did you take a vote? I said, no, you're right. I didn't take a vote. So I said, do I have a motion to throw the mayor and John Long out of the meeting? And I got a motion from Paul Ferreira from the school administrators, was duly seconded. We had a vote, and we threw him out. So I said, now it's official. The IAC's thrown you out of the meeting, so get the F out of here. And that night they were screaming about me. So tough shit. Don't even start with the F. Yeah, that to be. Well, that's just that's his rumor. You're right. That's ironic. We've talked about that before. That's Paul's nervous tick. When people get nervous, some of them like giggle, some of them like they kind of choke up and they stutter. But Paul tries to make everything like a joke. It's like, oh yeah, like let's make light of this. It makes it less. That's his thing. People, it's just like, oh, you don't even live it. You don't, you live in public housing. Shut up. You can't be on a debate about affordable housing. Isn't that funny? He doesn't even live in a house. Oh, he doesn't own his own house. That's funny. No, it's not. It's tragic. But you're right. That's Coogan's tell. When Coogan starts trying to smile and making a joke, he doesn't know what the hell to say. He's run out. You got him on the spot. You got him. You got him by the short hairs when he starts doing that. And you know that. Or when he starts every debate by saying, "Oh, Boomer's a good friend of mine, and we get along, and we'll disagree on this issue." That's the way he used to start the stuff when CJ and I were at every neighborhood meeting, saying that it's not the Durfee is not going to be paid by the time the bill comes due. He's lying, and nobody believed us, but we were right. But he used to say, "Oh, we disagree on that, but we're all friends. Let's not get adversarial."
Kumbaya.
Yeah, kumbaya. Let's all hold hands and don't attack me. I won't attack you. Well, you got nothing to attack. So,
Well, I want to take this back up to something that James brought up. About the mileage bill. That's Senate Bill 2246. Okay, I spoke with the sponsor of 2246. Again, a politician. Again, lots of bullshit. And here it is here. And according to the sponsor, you will not be impacted by this. This is, according to the sponsor, this is a bill to entice people to use public transportation and sets goals for mileage by people. But supposedly there's no fines if you go over. And the bill is also supposed to create funding sources for public transportation. But the bill recognizes that there are parts of the state that public transportation is not feasible and is not available. So the bill is supposed to put those areas into public transportation systems. So I don't believe a word of it.
And you shouldn't, because it's all a lie. And what James just said about Coogan, yeah. Well, Coogan does nothing but lie. And number one, he doesn't walk around the streets. He's never in that Bobby townhouse he lives on the corner of Johnson Street. I have eyes and ears in that neighborhood who say virtually he's never in that house. He doesn't sleep in that house most of the time. I think he's got his lights on a timer there. I drive by there routinely because I live off Eastern Avenue, and I always come down Oak Grove to go by and wave at Paulie if he's there, but he's virtually never there. And day, night, or anything, and you might see a light on or a TV on for a short time, and then it goes off. There are many people who believe that he is not living there. I've never, in all the years he's been the mayor, I have never seen his wife anywhere near that house. I've never seen his second car in the driveway. I've never seen anything. So, but I mean,
I only just saw her during the inauguration, briefly.
Look, he's full of shit. He makes light of everything, and it's an isolated incident. That's what the Democrats do. Oh, you got 47 people shot in Chicago this weekend. Oh, there's no crime in Chicago. Shut up. Uh, you know, uh, that's what they routinely say. Yeah, yeah, good one. He's 24-hour a day mayor. That's right. That was his campaign slogan. Remember, after Cliffy blew himself up with that letter he wrote to his people.
Ceremonious mayor.
Yep, ceremonial mayor. He said, "I'm going to be a full-time mayor." Well, you're a full-time buffoon, but you're not being a very very good mayor. And this is the problem that they lie about everything, the crime, and that's what they do routinely. We've exposed it. I just talked about that mainstream media thing. Minnesota man shot by ICE. Yeah, the guy was getting bludgeoned to death by 3 gang members. What do you expect them to do? Oh, let them kill me. Politicians saying, stop these Nazis. These are law enforcement. Shame on the police officers in Minnesota. They're a disgrace to the police. Police, they used to call that, the blue line. Police protect each other's back. They're like military people. You're out on the street, you're supposed to protect other law enforcement.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. They run away. They run away from screaming old ladies that are throwing, bottles at people, and they go. And then that dancing queen that's the mayor of Minneapolis there, Fry, he actually had the audacity on one of the TV shows to say they were, they're just defending themselves. What are you defending yourself against? If somebody's driving by you in a car and you're throwing bricks and frozen ice bottles at the car and ramming it with your vehicle, what threat were they in a vehicle with the doors locked? They're not getting out to do anything. And as far as that idiotic thing, it's just a way for them to segue into something. They got something up there. Say, listen, we can't be Europe, people. They're looking at Europe because Europe has a sophisticated train system, bus system. People ride bikes. People ride mopeds. They don't drive a lot of cars. Why? Really simple. Maybe none of you have been to Europe, but I was in Europe a long, long time ago. Gas was $8 a gallon in Europe 40 years ago. $7, $8 a gallon. Nobody could afford gasoline in Europe even 40 years ago. It's still about the same price as it was 40 years ago. When I was stationed in Germany, they had little tiny cars that had like lawn chairs in them, and they only used them when they had to do it. That's why people use bicycles and trains over there. The culture is different. They never did. And, years ago, our culture was like that. When everybody worked in a mill and nobody could afford a car, where did everybody live? Why are all the 3-deckers around the mills? My mother worked in Shelburne Shirt for 25 years. Then she worked another 30 years in Stella Ann Frocks, which is on Quackashan Street. I lived on a corner of Harrison and Alden. She walked across the street and walked into the Shelburne Shirt. It was diagonal from my house. Then she walked out of the house and walked around the corner into Stella Ann Frocks. We shopped in the Flint. They had clothing stores. They had everything in the Flint, and you could walk there without a car. A lot of people didn't have cars. A lot of people didn't have televisions. But then people began to make better money, and they got cars, and they had malls, and all these small places showed up. Our society is different. You will never get Americans who are mobile now to use public transportation as their main source of transportation. That's horseshit. Oh, yeah, well.
Actually, James, it wasn't Tracy Curley who said it.
No, it was the one she hired.
It's the one she hired, the multilingual language learner coordinator, who has 2 contracts with the school department already. And now she's going to oversee those contracts. So she's going to oversee herself. Talk about corruption.
Oh, Jesus. Well, how about this? I was thinking about that after he talked about it on the last show. What is she in charge of, CJ?
Immigrants.
Immigrants. And what is she going to do when she's in charge of immigrants? She's going to set up a curriculum to brainwash them that America's bad, Republicans are bad, Trump's bad, borders are bad. You got to say, screw America, do what the Somalis did, rob all their money, take all their freebies, and always say that America sucks. Because anybody that says America's good is not in favor of democracy. They're Nazis. No, we're not the Nazis. You're the freaking Nazis.
You know what's interesting? And this has been going on for many, many years. When they were in their own countries, they were burning our flag. They were saying our country was hateful. America was terrible. But they believed in the American dream. So they said farewell to their countries. Hopped on boats, caravans, camels.
I resemble that remark.
And came to America. And when they were at the borders, whether they be legal or illegal, what was the first words out of their mouth?
What do I get for free?
Welfare! Where can I get it?
That's right. And let's put this with you. No, they don't love it. They'll send it back, Raymond. I'm glad you brought that up. It just broke on the news yesterday that they have found that hundreds of millions of dollars in Minnesota has been going out of the Minnesota airport, which is have like 1/14 of the traffic. It's one of the smallest airports in the country, major airports. Millions of dollars have been going out of the Minneapolis airport, and they declared it. Hundreds of millions of dollars going back to Somalia. To Somalia. And 81% of the people who were Somalian in Minnesota are on some form of government assistance. 81% of them are on welfare, food stamps, or some other government program. All they did was come from a country where all they do, what's the main employment in Somalia? Does anybody know what their national product is? Their GDP? It's being a pirate. Remember the Somali pirates that were attacking the boats? All they do is kill each other over there. So they came from a country where they're nothing but thieves. And they came over here. They hate America. And Ilhan Omar says that all the time. She hates America. But they send all their money back to terrorist groups, Al-Shabaab. They're sending the money to Al-Shabaab, a terrorist organization. And you know where they found the second? They found another airport that was doing it too. You'll never believe it. Where was it? In Ohio. You know why? The Ohio airport would say, where the hell Ohio? That's in the Midwest. Why would they be sending millions of dollars, over to terrorist groups? Well, guess what? CJ, take a wild guess. Where is the biggest population of Somalis in the United States?
Minneapolis.
That's right, Minnesota. You know where the second biggest population of Somalis is? Ohio.
Yeah.
That's why it's coming out of Ohio. These son of a, they're stealing our money, living off welfare, making millions of dollars running daycare centers that don't exist and other Medicare frauds, and they're sending it back to people who want to come to America and attack us and kill us. They're sending it back to terrorist organizations. This is what the Democrats give you. And they want them to stay in the country. They call them their neighbors. One reporter asked one of them, so you're not in favor of ICE getting rid of a rapist or a murderer? Oh, but my neighbor isn't a rapist and a murderer. Oh, yes, they are. How do you know that? The thing is just nuts.
They also brought up the fact that millions of dollars in Minnesota is being stolen through the SNAP program.
Yeah, that's another one now, on top of the daycares.
Right.
Do you think that's the reason that our mass politicians don't want an audit of the state? Can you imagine how much fraud we have in our systems in this state? Well, every sanctuary state, I can guarantee you, if they did an audit of every sanctuary city and sanctuary state, how many Billions, hundreds of billions of dollars has Boston spent on illegals with
Right.
that racist Wu, Michelle Wu Wu. I love it when they call them our neighbors, and then they got 16 pages worth of the charges with some of these people that they're thrown out of the country: sodomy, rape of a child, rape of a child, rape of a child, murder, murder and arson, and they're throwing them out. Oh, those are our neighbors. You can't throw them out. You are bad people. Yeah, and that's how Somali took over Minnesota. They took off Minneapolis. There's over 100,000. There's like 150,000 of them up there. They swing every election. They vote as a block.
Right.
They vote as a block. Matter of fact, you know how bad it is in Minnesota? These Democrats, like, they didn't rob the election in 2020. They're finding out more and more voter fraud. But do you know in Minnesota, they got a rule now that if you walk into the polls, you can vouch for up to 8 people. So you walk in with 8 Somalis, can't speak English, just got off the donkey cart. You go in and go, oh, see these 8 people, I know them, they're legit, let them vote. Okay, you can vote in Minnesota. That's their ID. Why do you think they're fighting voter ID? You have to prove you're a citizen. In Minnesota, there's actually a law that you can walk into the polls and basically register 8 people on your word. And you're not even legal. So some illegal walks in with 8 other illegals and says, oh, let these people vote. They're going to make sure that we show them that we can keep you in office. What do you think Tim Walz turned his head for? What do you think the governor, what do you think the attorney general, all trying to cover their asses now? Oh, yeah, stop, you're picking on us. No, you're exposing their fraud. Why did they hate Trump? Why did they hate Elon Musk? Because they looked at them and, like we said, follow the money.
Well, you know what's interesting? Tampon Tim has said that he will challenge Trump in court if he enacts the Insurrection Act. He will challenge it in court.
He can't. He will, but he can't.
He will. But again, that's what he says. So it shows you how much they want to protect their illegal entities, their illegal enterprises. So we'll see what happens. Hey, before we sign off, I want to let you know, today, the Senate held a closed-door meeting to discuss Maura Healey's energy programs. Because you don't have a right to know. And you wonder why they don't want to be audited? What deals were cut there? Who got the envelopes?
Yep, and who called the meeting, CJ?
That's right. Oh, that's easy. The chairman of the State Ways and Means Committee.
And who's the guy that said you can't audit us because one can't audit the other, but it was the people? What do you think he wants to cover it up for? There you go, boom. It is a campaign issue right there.
There you go. That works.
It's not. Yeah, it's a federal law. It's in it's in the Constitution. And
it's an executive privilege.
The Posse Comitatus Act. That also they can't use that either. They can't use the Posse Comitatus.
Right.
You can't get the federal troops involved in the continental United States because the Insurrection Act supersedes that. So anybody that that's what they think they're going to plead. I know they're going to try to plead that, but they can't plead it because it is that all the legal scholars know that the Insurrection Act was there. It supersedes the Posse Comitatus Act.
Right. Right. Well, I want to thank you all for watching. And remember, stay safe, stay angry, and hold your politicians accountable. And remember, there's going to be snow this weekend. I don't know how much, but there's going to be snow. So remember, it's clear. And please, once we have to sign off, don't stop posting comments because they don't get posted. Have a great weekend. We'll see you on Monday, which is a holiday.
That's right.